What's up everyone? Mikey Bell here with Outdoor Adventure Training, and today we're bringing to you a 15-minute follow along routine for ankle stability. If you're an outdoor athlete spending time out on the trail, whether you're hiking or trail running, mountaineering, or just backpacking, ankle stability is so important to reduce risk of injury and optimize your enjoyment when you're out doing your favorite activity. As a certified personal trainer and professional mountain guide, I've seen so many people fall short of reaching their goal because they sustained an ankle or foot injury, which is almost always avoidable by integrating some of these stability routines and, of course, focusing on mobility and being very strategic with how you increase your training load. I personally have been dealing with some foot and ankle issues, recently diagnosed with plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, posterior tibial tendonitis, all the itises. And needless to say, the routine that we're doing today hosts quite a few exercises that I've been practicing regularly, which has contributed tremendously to reducing injury and strengthening my feet and ankles so I can get back outside doing the things I love most. For this routine, you are going to need a few important pieces of equipment. First, we need a mini resistance band of light to moderate intensity. If you don't have these and you've dealt with any sort of ankle or foot issues, they're worth their weight in gold and really great tools to have. They usually come in a set of different intensities. Grab the one somewhere in the middle for this. Next, we're going to need a tib bar. This is stacked with some weight on it already. These are fairly inexpensive online. They're a pretty niche piece of equipment they have, as you can only do a handful of exercises with them. That being said, they're very, very important exercises. Lastly, I'm gonna be using a slant board like I have on the ground here. This is an adjustable board, really amazing for stretching out the calves. We're gonna be doing some deep calf raises on this. If you don't have a slant board, I would perhaps recommend getting one if you're watching this video. Maybe you've dealt with some of the issues that we're talking about. You could do this on the edge of a step. You could stand on a couple of small weights stacked off the ground. Anything to elevate the forefoot just a couple inches off the ground. That's enough of me talking. We'll open the Outdoor Adventure Training app and click on the ankle stability routine. We have some walking movements, some static isolated movements, and then more dynamic movements where we're working through the range of motion. We'll get into the tib bar and the band towards the last two exercises in this set. And in the meantime, I'm just gonna move this out of the way so I have a little more room to work with. There's no warm up for this routine per se. This is just something I've been doing daily in the morning, and we're starting with heel walks. So I'm trying to keep my hips neutral, my toes are off the ground, and I'm just taking steps on my heels. The goal of this exercise is to activate the anterior tibialis. We're also putting the gastrocnemius into a more elongated position through reciprocal inhibition. By contracting one muscle, the other muscle must relax. So we're training our calves to relax while our anterior tibialis does some of the work. And now we're gonna flip that into toe walks. So my heels are elevated off the ground. I'm way up on the balls of my toes, and I'm just taking very small steps. My goal, and we'll talk about this throughout today, is to try to keep your toes splayed, especially if you've dealt with any sort of bunion issues. Tendency is for those toes to curl in. Really think about making even contact through all 10 toes. I am doing this with some zero drop, somewhat minimal shoes on. I'm trying to avoid doing too much barefoot movement just due to the nature of the plantar fasciitis I've been dealing with, but you could certainly, and I have certainly, performed this routine barefoot. So again, we're kind of breezing through these, otherwise this could easily turn into a 30 or 40-minute routine, and I want to keep it short just to show you the goods. Here we go. We're doing a single leg isometric forefoot load. So I'm bent at the hip, knee, and ankle, but my heel is elevated off the ground. Of course, glutes, quads, hamstrings are working, but I'm really emphasizing heel up and isometric contraction through the gastrocnemius, the peroneals, the posterior tibialis tendon. All of those muscles and structures really need to work to stabilize in this position. Keeping that bend, keep that heel up, just a few more seconds. And we're just gonna switch to the other side. Again, this is not a very difficult or long routine, but it is definitely enough to start building that strength and stability that we're looking for. Here we go.
Isometric
Other
single
foot,
leg 4-foot load.
getting up on the heel, on the toe rather. And again, here I'm really working on splaying my toes. Can't see it because my feet are in shoes, but my heel's off the ground and I'm pushing through the big toe, the middle toe, the pinky toe, and I'm feeling a lot of engagement through the calves. Also, a great way to work on balance. Really, any exercise that works on balance is also going to strengthen your foot and ankle. Nice work. Short little rest. We're getting into some calf raises now. We got a minute of these. These are things that I've always kind of neglected because I'm running uphill, I'm hiking uphill. Why do I need to do calf raises? But as it turns out, going back to neuromuscular efficiency, it's important to build that neuromuscular pathway. So I just like being next to a wall in case I need to balance a little bit. I'm not going to use a slant board yet. I'll use that for the next one. Very simply, I'm just coming up off my heels, way up onto the toes, holding for a second, coming down slow. So again, you could just like breeze through these and be like, oh yeah, they're pretty easy. But we really, really want to focus on that neuromuscular activation, coming down slow, all the way up, hold it, come down slow. For the last 30 seconds, I am going to use the slant board. This is really going to increase our range of motion. Hello, prayer flags. I like to keep my hand on the wall just to sort of take balance out of the equation. Not that there's not benefit to that, but rehabbing from an injury like plantar fasciitis, really concentrating on getting that range of motion, coming all the way up, down slow. You could also hold a dowel or a pole or whatever you have if you don't have a wall accessible. Maybe you're doing this outside. Okay, next we're doing that same exercise, calf raise, single-legged. I'll turn a little bit so you can see. So this is one that I really like having the stability of the wall for. Okay, so here we go. I'm working on keeping my pelvis neutral, shoulders over the hips, coming all the way up and then down slow. This is a significant step up from the two-legged calf raise. Oh yeah, you might even feel this in your hamstring a little bit, especially on the single-legged version. That's totally fine. Just a set or two of these is definitely enough to start feeling it and building strength. The side that I've been dealing with the injuries on is my right leg, so this one is harder for me for sure. But I have been practicing these basically daily for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
10 seconds left.
And it has helped so much on top of all the mobility stuff, which we do have a foot and calf mobility routine that I'll leave a link to the corner up here, to it in the corner. I'm gonna switch legs here to the left side now. These slant boards are amazing for a very niche kind of piece of equipment. It's a bit of an investment. I think this one was about $40, but high quality. It's gonna last a long time. I've kept this under my standing desk and have more or less been stretching out my calves incessantly every day during this period of lower training volume. Working this left leg now. Notice any tendencies too to come out to your toes or to your big toe. We don't want that knee collapsing, right? I'm really working on keeping that knee tracking over the second and third toe, getting really deep on that range of motion. Again, if you don't have a slant board for this, of course, you could perform this on a curb or a step. Even a book would probably do the trick. Nice and slow, working on range of motion. This is just as much about mobility, getting really deep stretch in the gastroc on the way down. Good concentric contraction on the way up. Whew, calves should be feeling pretty lit up after that. Oh yeah, it feels good. We're working with the tib bar next. We'll get to the band here shortly. For the tib bar, you're gonna wanna sit on the edge of your box or bench, chair, whatever you have. This is gonna be facing away from you, your feet go into the bar. I like having my knees right underneath the edge of the box or bench. And we're basically doing the reverse of a calf raise. So I'm pointing the toes away, and concentrically contracting up. Let's see, I got about 15 pounds on here. I could do more, I'm not going to, for the sake of rehabilitation and trying to rebuild some of that strength. This is just enough. You're also gonna get quite a bit of activation through the quadriceps, which is also beneficial. Not that that's our main goal here, but I'm really exaggerating that plantar flexion, trying to get that stretch through the anterior tib before it's contracting all the way up and holding for a second. Releasing on the way out. Short little rest, 20 seconds. We're doing those again. They do make these in a one-legged option too, which I'm probably going to explore because it would be nice to just do one at a time. I found doing it one at a time on here because it's asymmetrical is a little uncomfortable. Here we go, one more set of these. Short little rest. If you've never done these before and you're doing them for the first time, you're gonna feel this through the shins, and that's good. Just nice and slow. Working on range of motion just as much as we are with that concentric contraction. This is really effective too because again, that reciprocal inhibition, because we're strengthening the anterior tib, we are simultaneously lengthening the gastrocnemius. So even though all the static stretching and dynamic stretching for the calves and the soleus is really, really great, we also want to build that muscular strength to have optimum muscular balance in our body. So many people deal with muscle imbalance, especially when it comes to the lower legs. If you struggle with squatting or sitting low on your heels, it's likely due to your calves. Okay, here we go. Our last little segment here, we're hopping on the floor. Let me get my band hooked up. I do like to have a foam roller handy as well for this one, just to prop my foot up. For the band, I'm just gonna girth hitch it around the bottom of my weight rack here. Pull that through. And we're gonna start with ankle inversions. So the outside of my foot is facing the anchor point. And all I'm working here is just with a little bit of tension is letting that foot open up and then contracting inwards. So ankle inversion. This one is targeting the posterior tibial tendon or posterior tibialis, which leads into the posterior tibial tendon. So we're strengthening the muscle on the inside of the shin bone or the tibia. And this one is directly related to shin splints. So if you've ever had shin splints, these ankle inversions are an incredible way to strengthen that muscle. So often when we think of tendonitis and things like that, we think of stretching and mobilizing, which we should, but we also need to redevelop adequate strength there.
You're done in 3, 2, 1.
Short little rest, and then we're doing eversion. So I'm simply just going to flip around here and hopefully not be too far out of the frame.
Ankle eversion.
So just the opposite here. I'm gonna put my foot with the inside of my foot now facing the anchor point, and I'm working eversion. And if I'm out of the frame, doesn't matter. Working on that eversion of the foot. So now we're strengthening the peroneal muscles on the outside of the lower leg. So again, through that reciprocal inhibition principle, we are strengthening the peroneals and reducing that stress on the posterior tibialis. These I personally find more difficult, at least on the left leg. Really working that range of motion, articulating that ankle. It's not about how far you go, but rather the quality of each rep. Just 5 seconds left, we're almost there. Nice work. Since I'm already set up here, And again, I apologize if I'm out of the frame. You really don't need to see my face here. I'm switching legs, and now I'm gonna do ankle inversion on the right side. So again, I like the foam roller because it keeps my heel off the ground and allows it to move a little more freely. Pay attention to your knee here too. We don't want our knee to collapse in, so a little bit of glute engagement. But again, inversion and then resisting on the way out. So this side is definitely harder for me, dealing with that post-tib tendon. But doing this stuff daily has made such a huge difference in the recovery process and how quickly the pain, the debilitating pain of all of these injuries has slowly dissipated. And working that range of motion.
10 seconds. Hang in there.
3 seconds left. And then we're switching to eversion.
20 seconds.
So I'm switching sides here. Definitely feeling this in the lower legs. Put that around the right foot here. Hello again. Getting set up. So again, I'm just right perpendicular to that ankle. These are great things to do kind of independent of exercise and activity. You could certainly integrate these at the end of a workout. However, my go-to has just been doing this as a standalone routine, either kind of earlier in the morning in the day or in the evening. Probably the morning is my favorite. Evening, I'm generally doing more mobility. Definitely feeling that. And the peroneals on the right side. Few more reps here. This stuff may all seem pretty simple, and it is, but it's really effective. And really what it all comes down to is accountability. Just showing up, getting it done so you can get back outside doing what you love most. Whew, nice work, good job. So again, you could certainly do more of this sort of stuff. A 15-minute routine is kind of right on the edge of really what's gonna make a difference, especially if you're dealing with these chronic injuries over a long period of time. It takes a very structured and programmatic approach to rehabilitate these things. If you are just doing this to build more strength, or if you're recovering from an injury, definitely check out our training programs at outdooradventuretraining.com. We are slowly integrating these sorts of movements into most of our lower body workouts to help keep these injuries at bay. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time here at Outdoor Adventure Training.